right, so now we are ready for the second presentation of the technical track. And now we have Alin Alexandru, the CTO at Innobyte, with a presentation, how to monitor the performance of a Magento instance. His session will cover useful tips and tools to easily monitor an Adobe Commerce instance performance. Please give a huge round of applause.
Hello. I don't know where to stay. Some of them will not see me. I will try to move around. So, okay. Huh? Yeah. So this is the agenda. We'll speak a little bit about myself. I will introduce you. Then the tool that I'm using for application monitoring, the tool that I'm using for profiling, for database monitoring, and how some good advice is how to improve your full page caching. Even though I will say some commercial solution, I'm not paid to say anything about them, but are just the tool that I like. This is me, 10 years younger. Yeah, so I have more than 13 years experience in programming, 10 years in e-commerce. More in the last years, I'm working with big teams and high throughput websites. And now starts for me the best part of the year. Now the website owners reminds that Black Friday is coming, they have a website and they want to sell much more. Innobyte is an e-commerce agency. We are doing only e-commerce, mostly Magento. We are based in Romania. So let's think first. Probably you know that this question or this remark from the website owners that the website is not working, that is loading very slow. We as programmer, or as I know from technical team, we need to find a solution. And some of the solutions from what I will present, you will see that are not from code. But if you are not from code, from how do you know from where it is? So the first thing is to have in place monitoring system that can have historical data, because when you receive the message, the website works. So you need to know what happened when it was that report. And to know how to, to find what happened in that moment that was causing the website to be slow. So the first tool that I'm using, especially when a new client comes to us, is to install New Relic. New Relic, one of my the biggest advantage that I found is that it's very easy to install. They say 5 minutes, but after 2 or 3 installs, probably it will take 2 minutes, and you have a lot of insight of what is happening in your website. For Magento, they do know the route from the Magento. So you can see, for example, how much time the category page is, how much load the category page is putting on your server than the product, or the, for example, now is the 404 page. So you have the analyze part, and then you have the monitoring part when you can set alarms or you can define some thresholds to be aware when something goes wrong before the client's notice or the website owner. In this example, we were reported that the website was slow. We did see that, we did see that this yellow line in New Relic means database queries. There are 2 clients here, but now the answer is that the database was running on that moment. But before we noticed this, we found this, we try to look on the code or try to see what crons were running in that moment, how was the traffic, things like that. But after we checked the timeline when the database was running, it was in the same time. In this client, they are doing backups 4 times a day. So the solution for those 2 clients was to just replace the database backup that was doing a MySQL dump with, for example, Percona extra backup, or I don't know, some backup solution that you have on your cloud provider or on the hosting. Another use case was that the content manager had an idea to put some labels on some pages, but there were not some pages. So it was 300 categories and 9,000 products, and it was not just a rule, there was 10 rules. I don't have the graphic, but we noticed this line, this portion to be upper. The query that was executing was layout update select, and you will see after in another slide what is causing. We try to analyze what is happening, and Magento, in this case, for each product or category that you specify here, it will create an entry into a database, basically in this layout update select. And because Magento doesn't know how to load that query optimal, it will load everything from that table. After we drop or optimize those queries, because we moved the logic from here to custom modules, we see that the load dropped, and especially 125 milliseconds just drop off from the total time of loading the page. So this is the first tool, so 2-3 examples easily. But what I do like, again, on New Relic is that now they have integration that can give you insight about all your application running on your web server or on your multiple servers, like Nginx, MySQL, Redis, Varnish, HA proxy if you have. So you have built-in dashboard, and you can easily see where those spikes are or from where are causing, what are causing. Another thing that we discovered with New Relic was in a cloud environment, because Magento is pulling a lot of data from Redis, we just hit the total bandwidth available for the Redis server. And the solution in that case was just to put Redis in the cluster to try to increase the total throughput. Another use case that you can easily add in your pipeline, doesn't matter what pipeline are you using to do deployment, is to easily just make this URL call. And basically what it does, it just adds some markers like you have here. And then you can easily see if the new version of the website is lower than the previous one, because you can easily compare those two, and New Relic automatically does this for you. So you can go to the deployments section, and you can see that version 2 of your application, it's 10% slower than the previous one. And you can try to analyze what you need to do there. But there are some disadvantages, and for me are two. One is that New Relic doesn't track fast response. So if you have, I don't know what is the threshold, but probably if you have an API that it's taking 100 milliseconds, you will not see much data there. And the second one is that it will add loads on the web server. It's not much, but it is. And my solution in this case is when I have I don't know, 5 or 10 front web servers is to add New Relic only on one web server, because in theory you will have the same data. It's true that I know if something happens only once or twice a day, you might not find it in the first day, but at some point you will find it. So in this graph, in the bottom here with almost zero load are the other web servers, and the yellow lines are two web servers that have New Relic. So you have to keep in mind about this load, and it's getting higher with the load of the server. So the difference will be bigger if the server is under big load. So keep in mind that. The next thing that I use to have better understanding of what is happening in the Magento website is to use Blackfire. Is someone using Blackfire? Oh, nice. Okay, so I'll go quickly fast on this slide. So you can do profiling. This means that you as a developer, you can profile each request of the website. Doesn't matter how fast or how slow it is. You can have recommendation. There are some plugins. One is for Magento. They can give you quick recommendation. For example, in a category page, they will put an alarm that if you are loading two or more collections in a category page. And you'll be surprised that most of the Google Analytics modules that exist in the marketplace actually load the same product collection just to get the tracking information from the category page. You can have assertions. I don't know it's in the first plan. I think it's in the next plan. Basically, you can write an YAML file, and you can say for your own website that for a product page you don't have to do more than, I don't know, 1,000 queries. The response time needs to be in the certain interval. You don't do many HTTP requests. And you will see in the next slide the diff code inside. This is the profile made for the first issue with the sales rule. And at the beginning, when I saw this report, I knew that there is a problem. And there are several marks that give me this information. So first of all was that we are downloading, this is the network area, we are downloading 30 megabytes of data. It was high memory usage. Normally in Magento you should have 40 megabytes here or 60, but not 120. And if we go to the SQL tab, we spent 500 milliseconds doing database queries. So it was the same query as in the first slide. So when you're doing a profile, there are some key points. One is duplicate queries. You will find that, for example, each module is loading the product to do the same thing or to get the price. You can find slow queries like the one in the previous slide. Pay attention on the high memory usage, high bandwidth usage. Those will add CPU time. That will add high response time. Another problem, especially with third-party modules and even your own module, is to load product individually in listing. Duplicate AJAX requests, especially the customer section query, or on another client, we discovered that they were doing Facebook requests on each page load from the server side, which adds 200 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds on the page load. Sorry, do you have the second presentation, or it was another one sent today? If not, it's okay. There were more examples in the new one. The third platform that I'm using is Performa Monitoring and Management. And this one has another advantage, is that it will give you big insight on what is happening on the database. New Relic is good, but it's high level, it's not that deep inside. You have that problem with that it adds loads on the web server, so maybe you don't want to use it. But with Percona, what it does, you have to modify a little bit the MySQL, or I don't know, MySQL variant that you are using, the config file. And depending on how you set it, it will output in the slow query log a % of the sessions or a % of the queries. I'm using a % of the sessions. So this means that, for example, 1 in 100 sessions database connection that are made to the database, it's logged to the slow query log file. And from the slow query log is an agent that will get the data from there and send it to Percona. So this is what you can see in the query analysis page. They have probably more than 1,000 graphs with basic one like load on the server, read write on hard drive, memory consumption, all those stuffs. But what I really love, and probably is the only tool that I know, is they have this MySQL query history performance. So basically you select an interval, and depending on the percentage that you have on the logging, you will see the queries that were executed. So in default, we have the third column is the load that it adds on the server. Then you have the throughput, query time, but you can also add other columns that are available. And you can easily then sort and filter those queries to find the ones that are adding loads on the web server. This is a detailed version of the query that was causing issue in the first slides. You have the query counts, the query time, log time. This is also something that you need to take care of it. So log time means how much time the query was logging the database while it was executing. You will have higher values on updates queries. Then for this query, you have rows sent. So how much rows was received from the Magento while doing this query? In this case, 9K. No, a row sent is a total 9K per second, but rows examined was 27K per second, so a high number. But the next one is a big one. In this example, it's a 24-hour period. The MySQL server was sending 1.23 terabytes of data. So 1.2 terabytes of data was traveling to network from disk to the other web server that was processing that amount of time, the data, just to put the labels on some pages. And then file sort on disk. It's useful when you are doing filtering and you are not using an index. You will find big value here. And probably that you don't have here. Another metric that is interesting is how much data matched the condition and how much was sent. Next, from my experience, another cause for the slow website is that you are not delivering content from the full page cache. And I did an audit on a website, and they had 1% of the traffic from full page cache. So basically, the full page cache was not doing anything. This is a graph from Grafana, but you can have something different also in New Relic. For this client, we have only 31. Hit ratio, it's not good, but it's not bad. For this client, it's quite good because they're updating the price very often, so that's why you cannot increase too much. But the challenge for me was, okay, I have this graph. I know that I don't have a good full page cache performance, but how I can identify the root cause. And the first idea that I had, and it works pretty well, is just to use an uptime robot. And the key is to, put at 1 minute or how less you have the possibility from that uptime robot. And from their graph, you can see the response time of that page. So when you have a high response time, probably that page was not from full page cache. It might be database backups or other things, but if you do historical data, you will see that the moment when this is happening. When this is happening, try to correlate with what was happening in that period. For example, at 2 a.m., I think Magento runs a cron that updates the spatial prices from the catalog, and it flashes all the cache from the full page cache. So if you are not using catalog rules, you can just disable that cron, and your cache will not be fully invalidated at midnight. Then Cronitor, I think, is one uptime. The last slide is a tool that you can check the status of a header. Then you can do with varnish log, you can monitor how many times the purge was happening. Then another thing is to use a massive full page warmer that has this report. It shows what was invalidated and at what time, and they have the full back trace of that event. And that's it. I don't have any time. We can speak after more.